So give us three, two, one, and then. So welcome, JP, to episode 7 of the podcast.
Episode 7.
Episode 7.
Amazing, man.
7.
Congratulations, bro.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. So for those tuning in, today we have JP Abou Jaoude, who goes by the name of J Abou.
Yeah.
Or I call him JP for short.
A lot of people do.
He's a high school friend of mine. He's also a musician and singer-songwriter now, a fantastic one,
Thank
I
you,
might
sir.
add.
Thank you, bro.
And funnily enough, he was also my very first client as well.
Yeah.
So you kickstarted my career.
You know what? And now you have this kind of new career path, which is like the podcasting. And I think the most important thing is that like we're just doing, you know.
Yep,
Just,
absolutely.
you know, doing the thing.
Yep.
And talking about it. I mean, podcasting is like talking about the thing that you're, you know, doing.
Absolutely, no, absolutely, which we'll get right into today,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
And today's basically going to be, for those tuning in, mainly all about following your heart and your passion and how you got into doing what you're doing now, which is considered not typical, I would say.
Yeah.
Especially here in the Middle East, especially in Dubai, especially going to the university that you did and the school that we both went to.
Yeah.
It's not our typical path, right? It's
No,
not
it's
something
not.
that mom and dad would have thought we would get into.
Yeah, sure. FAD graduates don't usually go into the arts.
Physics, chemistry, science, math.
And S, man. Were you
And
S or L?
I was S.
You were S as well.
I was S.
And I remember like feeling at the time, if I don't do S, like I'm a failure. You
Right.
know?
Oh, absolutely.
You know, like
That's how they made us
even
feel.
the school made you feel that way, even though it's their like option for you to be literary or
Yes.
sciences. That's
Yes.
what S and L are, right?
Right.
And and even me, like I loved science as a
Right.
kid, but I loved science. I
Sure.
didn't love the way school taught us.
Right.
You know, physics and
Yeah.
chemistry.
Right.
They weren't like passionate about, and I lost
Sure.
my passion for science at school a little bit.
Interesting.
But anyway, yeah, man, they didn't set us up to like.
And they even cut music and art and PE and all
Yeah,
that.
right.
All
Like
of
I
those
think
things out.
I mean PE stayed, right, or it became like
It also got cut
semi-optional.
out. I think at the 10th grade, PE was gone as well.
Oh, and then it was just like optional,
So
right?
anything that was considered fun
Yeah.
or creative or artistic
Yeah,
would be
anything.
considered not serious, or you can't really make a career out of it. right?
Exactly.
Which was, again, music, art, sports, things of that sort was
Exactly.
essentially cut out.
Yeah.
To make more room for the physics and the maths and the sciences, which are great if you want to get into that, but not everybody wants to get into that.
I would argue that most people don't want to be
Astrophysicist.
yeah, I mean honestly, there was a point in my life when I wanted to be an astrophysicist.
Okay, yeah,
physicist,
sure.
Because I love space. I love space. You know, and I
Yeah.
always watch like documentaries about black holes.
Sure,
and, you know,
Interstellar.
yeah, I mean Interstellar is great, but
Right.
like before that, Interstellar was a big movie for a lot of people who were like space buffs, you
Right,
know,
right.
Because
Haven't
there was
seen it,
like the
actually.
culmination of so much. You haven't seen Interstellar?
No, I haven't yet.
What?
Yeah, I know.
But
Shameful.
everyone's seen it.
Shameful, I know.
No, it's not shameful. It's fine. At least you have something to
look forward to, yeah.
But anyway, no, yeah, it wasn't the regular career path.
Right. Yeah, so tell us, I mean, how did you, from high school to university to up until today, how did you get into the path that you got into? And what are some obstacles that you faced, some challenges that you faced, people that were maybe telling you that you couldn't do it, maybe, the so-called haters or whatever it is, tell us the whole gist, the whole story.
Yeah, so look, to be honest, the biggest challenge, I think, growing up in an Arab family, Arab home, is the parents.
Right, right.
Anyone listening to this who's from a Arab background knows that it's the parents.
Right.
And I grew up with a single mom, so it was even
Sure.
harder because she's like, my God, I need him to be able, and I don't blame her, I understand, she
Sure.
just wants me to be able to support myself and be
Fair
up on my feet and
Yeah.
be able to eventually, support a family and her
Right.
too, because she doesn't want to worry about herself. She wants to know that the son is bringing, is able to provide
Support
and
himself
support
and-
himself.
Yeah, fair
Even just
enough.
support myself.
Sure.
So I think that was the one thing that took time. The person that took the most convincing was
Sure. Were
was
you
my
always
mom.
playing music, even in like high school and stuff like that?
Yeah,
Were you always singing?
I was playing guitar since I was 10. I started singing at like 15, 16 in high
Okay.
school.
Whoever hasn't heard his voice, make sure you go listen to it right now.
Thank you, bro.
can probably tell through just the way he speaks that he has a good singing voice.
I would argue you have a really good speaking voice.
Maybe a
the
speaking
podcast
voice,
suits
but you don't want to hear my singing voice, that's for sure.
We were just singing that song a few minutes ago.
Yeah,
Not
we
bad.
were,
It was pretty good. Yeah, man. I otherwise, like, not many haters. A lot of people were actually very supportive. Friends were always very
Awesome.
supportive. I think there were some people who you kind of know by the way they interact with you.
Right.
Like they say, like, "Oh yeah, I'm so happy for you," but you can tell that what they're really thinking is,
What are
"I
you
don't know
doing?
how he's gonna
Yeah.
make this work."
Sure, sure,
I
sure.
don't know if I could live like that.
Right,
But
right.
the thing is, I used to think, even up until 2 years ago, uh, that having a corporate job, having a 9 to 5, like that's the safe way.
Sure,
And
sure.
then you see friends of yours who've been with companies, big companies, reputable companies for years,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden they, lose their job just like that.
Absolutely.
So even
Absolutely.
that I realized is the illusion
Not
of
so
safety.
safe. Yeah,
Yeah, it's an
absolutely.
illusion of
Absolutely.
safety.
And then even if it was safe, if you're not happy there and you're miserable, so what's the point in being so-called safe if you're not happy doing what you're doing on a daily basis,
Exactly. And
right?
and most
So,
people who are in those jobs think that they are at least safe.
right.
And so maybe the happiness can wait for the weekend or can
Sure.
wait for when they travel,
Vacation,
put it
exactly.
on hold.
Exactly.
But yeah, look, it took me 6 or 7 years to graduate from AUD. I just kept failing, changing majors,
Sure, sure.
being like, I
Taking it
don't know.
easy. I'd call it taking it easy.
Man, yeah, I honestly would barely show up
Right.
to university,
Yeah.
and I hated it, and I thought like, well, this is just something you have to do.
Right.
You have no choice. Like, you
Yeah.
have to finish this.
Yeah,
You
for
have to
us
finish
growing
what you
up,
started.
university is not even an option, right? It's not like we can
No,
choose
it's
to
a
not
given.
go. Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
given.
It's a must.
It's a must, and like life can wait. And honestly, if there's one thing that I would do if I ever become a father, it's to be like, those years are really the years that you can and no regrets for me.
Right.
But like if I had 17 to 24, 25, to instead of worry about my finance course,
Yes.
if I could have just like worried about becoming the greatest musician, if
Absolutely.
that could have been my number one priority, it would have saved me so much time. I would have been. I don't want to live in the would have and should have and could
Right,
have, but
right,
I'm just
right.
saying like those are really important formative years,
Absolutely.
and they're years where you can grind your hardest and you're at the core of your creative self, like the most creative,
Yes.
the most free.
Right.
You still have very little programming,
Yes,
you
conditioning.
societal conditioning.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm still like very happy that I got to
Right.
finish
Yeah,
that.
that was your path.
That was my path,
Yeah.
and I think some of the songs I write and some of the skills that I've acquired are because I didn't get to,
Right.
at the time. But when I finished university, at some point, my mom's like, "All right, well, you have to get a job now," and
So
at
you
the
did end
time,
up graduating after those
I
6,
ended
7
up
years.
graduating with like a 2.03.
Yeah, but
And
honestly, like in hindsight, like
it
do
doesn't
GPAs
matter.
really matter?
No,
Well, it depends what
no.
you're doing after, right?
It does.
I mean, if you're going into like grad school or law school, then yes, maybe it matters.
Exactly.
But I remember also like tripping on my GPA for the longest time. And then I think I got a 3.3, and then I was like, okay, what does that really matter in the real world?
Did it matter?
For me, not
Did
so
you do
much.
you did a little bit of like the corporate life
I
when
did
you
some
graduated?
corporates. Yeah, I mean, my GPA was on my CV, but I don't know how much that really played into like getting the
Yeah,
jobs.
probably not, right? It's probably
so
more
much.
like the interview,
Yes.
how you did, how you answered questions,
Yeah.
your problem solving ability,
Yeah.
all that stuff. But yeah, I at the
So
time
you
that
graduated.
I graduated,
Yeah.
barely, and I had to like I tell everyone that I graduated in finance because I studied finance.
Sure.
But I remember like when the time came to actually get it all done at the registrar, she said to me like, listen, your GPA is so low that we can't offer you like you can't graduate with your finance specialization.
Oh, wow.
You just have to declare that you're general business. And I was
Okay.
like, okay, that's it. And no, fine, yeah,
Yeah.
general business, whatever,
Yeah.
as if it's gonna make a difference.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good enough.
So at the time I graduated, I had started getting into like the open mic scene in Dubai, and I was doing a few open mics a week. There were
Cool.
two that were really legendary. One
So
was
you
at
just hit them up and say, hey, like I'd like to perform at your place.
yeah. So at the time I had I've always in my whole career I've had like someone like with me at a certain point in time, like a guy usually helping me out, and at the time the person who was sort of like managing me and managing my career, and trust me, like when I was at that age, it was a very difficult task to manage me. But my really good friend Charlie Wallace, who's now like a full-time songwriter in the UK, took me to a jazz Pizza Express. That's what the place is called.
Oh, I
Jazz
remember
at Pizza
that.
Express.
I
The one in
remember that.
JLT.
Yes, yes,
And there were open mics hosted
yes.
by a guy called Abo
I think I
with long
performed. I
hair.
think you performed there, and I watched you one time.
It's possible.
Very
I did
possible.
it so many
Okay,
times.
so then for sure.
And yeah, I got introduced to Abo.
Okay.
And not to be confused with me, J Abo.
Right.
But
Did that lead into putting that in your
no,
name
no.
whatsoever?
So the whole like Jean-Pierre Abou Jaoude to J Abo thing.
Okay, so it's Abo, not Abu.
Yeah, it's ABO.
Okay,
So it was
I
just I
thought it
wanted
was
to
J
find
Abu.
something like pretty symmetrical. I was
Sure.
actually with Charlie. We were
Okay.
sitting at my house. It was late at night, and he's like, "All right, so we got to brand you. Like, who are you gonna be?"
Sure.
And like Jean-Pierre is a bit like what am I singing La Bohème? You know,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's just didn't make sense.
Yeah.
And Jean-Pierre Abou Jaoude was too long.
Right,
And
right.
so we were trying to find like something that was close to the name, to my actual name, that
Yeah.
didn't feel like too far of a
Yeah.
departure.
JPAJ.
Yeah, JPAJ, but like also like that's just sounds like a you know like a maybe like some kind of Japanese
Sure.
stock,
Sure.
you know.
Sure.
And I had a lot of people who called me Jay. Charlie would call me Jay.
Sure.
And you know, Abo are the first three letters of my last name,
Right,
like Abou
right.
Jaoude. I just
Sure.
took Abo, and it kind of
Sure.
sounded like you didn't know where it was from. Is
Right.
it? You know, it doesn't have like you can't really tell where J Abo is from. Who's you know, and I kind of wanted that. Like I wanted that
Mysteriousness.
mystique. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't want people to like pigeonhole me as like a Lebanese guy
Sure.
or even an American guy or
Right, right.
you know, I was just J Abo, whatever.
Sure.
Let's see what happens. And also in terms of like SEO, it was good because there's no other J Abo.
Right, right,
know?
right. That's smart.
And even when I didn't have much content on the internet, and you would search J Abo, I would be like the first page on Google.
Okay.
So it was a good move strategically speaking, and I
Right.
would say even now, like it's kind of good. The only caveat is that sometimes like publications and newspapers will just assume that my name is J Abdo. And so now it's a running joke with me and Mu'in and a bunch of like my really close friends.
Yeah.
We're like, "Shoo, J Abdo, kifak,"
Yeah.
you know. And so that's the one thing. Sometimes like you know you get the Abdo thing, you get the Abu thing.
Sure.
And
Yeah, but
so
look, there'll always be mistakes.
there
with
are,
names, right?
I think it's good. Like whenever
Yeah.
whenever you have a name that's being discussed, it's good to have it be discussed. you know?
Exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, that's how it happened. But to go back to the open mics, I was doing the open mics with Charlie. He introduced me to Abo. I started doing them weekly, and at that point, Mom was like, "You got to get a job."
So you didn't have a job while you were doing this?
No.
Okay, okay.
So this was like during my last year of university, and a little bit afterwards, I was doing a lot of the open mics, and I didn't have work, but like I would get a gig here and there that would pay.
Yeah.
You know, I think my first paid gig ever was. I was like busking, like pretend busking, which is a very Dubai thing, by the way.
What is busking?
Busking is when you go to any like city and you see a musician on the street with a guitar case on the floor that's open, and then you know
Sure,
people putting
okay.
dropping money into
money
the guitar
inside,
case.
yeah.
That's called busking,
Sure.
and usually in most big cities in the world, you have to get a busking permit, and you
Oh,
have
I
to.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and sometimes they're in New York it's very competitive, and there are people who
Sure.
have their areas.
Right.
But in Dubai, busking is actually illegal.
Right.
So in a few places, like I think this was a Dubai-born concept, the pretend busk, and so these agencies would hire me and some other guys and work with places like at the time I was in Festival City, and they just put me up in a corner and I would busk without the guitar case open or anything, and then
Sure.
they'd pay me like my monthly
Sure.
fee.
So no one would
know?
actually go in and put money
No,
in?
that's
Okay.
not allowed.
Right.
But it was so. And I did a few gigs that were like that. Actually, there's another one called MOTN.
Sure.
In Abu Dhabi, they have me every year. I don't do the busking gigs there anymore, but like that's how I started as well.
Right.
I would do the pretend busk, as I call it. And I remember my mom being like, "If you need to start making money," and I said to her, "Just give me 6 months, and if I'm making the same amount that my
Right.
friends are making in their entry level salaries, then
Yeah.
you need to
Yeah.
like kind of
Cut
get
me
off
some
my
slack.
back." Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it happened. I got my first residency, which is like a weekly gig,
Right.
contracted over a certain period of time. I
Where-
did that with Stereo Arcade. That was
Nice.
my first
I remember
one.
that.
They gave me my first residency. Super grateful, amazing. Like at the time, you feel like a rock star. You're
Yeah.
like 20, 24 years old, and you're like, man, they're paying me to
Right,
sing on a
right.
stage.
Yeah,
It was amazing. And then,
sure. And then you just do what, like cover songs and things like that?
yeah, at the time, yeah, I was doing covers and like a couple original songs. And, the line is still muddy between cover gigs and original gigs
Right,
because there are both.
right, right,
And there's
right.
two types, there's really two pools of musicians in Dubai.
Sure.
And then, so there's like the cover musicians, the pros,
Yeah.
right? The people who are doing gigs where they're mostly covering other stuff. And then there's original musicians.
Sure.
There's a smaller market for that, but it's growing now because there's a lot of really good musicians in Dubai who are actually starting to put out their music,
Right, right, right.
including me. I'm slow at doing it, but like I'm getting there.
Right.
But usually in Dubai, what makes the money is the cover gigs, right?
Right.
Like people want to hear songs that they know,
Sure.
and
So right now, are you doing residences? Are you doing?
right now I'm doing a combination of things.
Okay.
So I've been trying over the last 2 years to do less and less cover residencies because they can get really soul sucking,
Sure.
at some point. And you start to see, I'm sure you sometimes you look at you see not to put anyone down, but like you see people and they represent like where you don't want to end up in like
Right,
5 or
right.
10 years.
Sure.
And like I know I've known this for a while that I don't want to be, late 30s or 40 and be singing covers at even the best restaurant or the
Sure,
best
sure,
lounge or
sure,
the best
sure.
bar. Like I don't want to
Right,
be doing
right,
that.
right.
So
So you want to be what? Making your own music? Is that it?
man, I thought the career, like everyone has that like picture perfect dream, like, oh, I want to win a Grammy, I want to be on
Right,
stage in front of
right.
20,000 people.
Sure.
And like, reality doesn't look like that. And for a long time, maybe it will look like that eventually, but for a long time I
Well, for
was
the
like,
songs that you have out right now, for those listening, whoever hasn't listened to Jay's songs, listen to them ASAP because, quite honestly, and I'm not just saying that, Jay, because you're my friend, I love your songs.
thank you, bro.
Love
I
the
know,
lyrics,
I know.
love the tunes, love the beats. Again, I'm not such a fancy swancy musician, but I do know that I love the songs
Doesn't matter,
themselves.
man, because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, like something really cool that John Mayer said once is, no matter how good you think you are as a musician, the audience is smarter than you because they decide. They
Sure.
decide if your song is good or not.
Right.
Doesn't matter what you say. Doesn't even
Yeah.
matter what the label
So
says.
I don't know if it's the beat that's good or the hook or the
Doesn't
chorus
matter.
or whatever it is.
You felt something.
I felt
Like that
something. I
song we were
resonated with the
singing,
lyrics,
we were-
which we'll get into in a
exactly.
minute.
Exactly.
Yeah. So for those listening, J Abou songs. Where can they find your songs if they wanna listen to you?
So right now I have 2 songs that are out on Spotify, and then I have the like sort of bootleg versions or unofficial versions of a bunch of other songs that you can find on YouTube.
Sure. And Apple Music as well. Was it?
Yeah, all streaming services
Sure,
basically.
sure.
Because when you release a song, or nowadays at least, and you get all your, it just kind of automatically releases it on all streaming platforms,
Right,
on
right.
YouTube, on
Yes,
Spotify,
yes,
Deezer,
yes,
whatever,
yes,
at the same time.
Same with my podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
yeah.
You use DistroKid.
I use Spotify for podcasters.
Okay.
So you put it up there, and then it just broadcasts it to everywhere.
Exactly.
pretty much.
So it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Right now I only have like those 2 songs available: "Change Tomorrow" and "Moonbound."
Yes.
And right now I have like
Both
a
fantastic.
5-song. Thank you so much.
Okay.
A 5-song release strategy over the next year.
Oh wow. Okay. I'm excited.
Yeah, man, because I've like I said, you get a bit lost in the money trap of Dubai,
Right, right.
And you end up prioritizing the cover gigs and,
Sure,
and
sure.
prioritizing the paycheck,
Yeah,
and then you
fair
realize
enough, fair enough.
5-6 years have passed, and I've only put out like 2 songs,
Sure.
and now I'm kind of realizing. I think either Chris Williamson or Rich Roll one of the guys always say this, that if you don't make your own plan,
Yeah.
then society will make a plan for you.
Sure. Sure.
And so it's really tricky because when you're a musician and you're doing cover gigs, you think like, oh, I'm doing the thing that I was meant to do.
Right.
But really, no, I'm not, because the thing I'm meant to do is to put out these songs and
Right.
work on these songs.
Right, right.
So it can be really deceptive,
Sure,
because
sure.
you think you're doing music, but
Right.
really you're doing covers and you're doing
Right,
entertainment,
right,
which is
right.
another really good muscle to grow.
Sure. Sure. Yeah,
But
I
this
get what you
year
mean.
is all about the songs.
Okay.
I'm doing a couple residencies, but I want to be more on the either. So like what this year alone looks like for me is my priorities are the 2 events that I'm running. which I'll tell you a little bit about, and the original music and the retreats that I was
Awesome.
telling you about.
Awesome.
That's kind of like what I'm doing right now, and
Sure.
it's a mixed bag, man, because organizing an event takes all and hosting it takes
Yeah.
the entire skill set of like things that I maybe hated doing in the past.
Sure.
So,
Sure.
you know, the whole concept of everything happens for a reason, and there's a reason I
Right.
went through those horrible gigs or really difficult experiences, because
Right.
now things that used to be difficult are not difficult to
Exactly.
me,
Now you
you
have
know?
them on their set.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, that leads us into the next part that I wanted to talk about, which is tying into the whole theme of the podcast, which is improving people's health and well-being and fitness and wellness. And I wanted to ask you, because I know in your lyrics, I listened to your lyrics, which are very powerful
Thank you.
lyrics as well, the importance of taking care of your health in general, and especially to be able to maintain your career. So I know in some of your lyrics, you talk about like your bad habits,
Yeah.
and I saw some videos where I can't remember where it was now. Was this on Instagram or YouTube where you were playing some video games and
Yeah, when I was
vaping
playing
and like
Hogwarts Legacy and vaping.
whatever it
Yeah,
was, right?
100%. Nice,
So
nice. I'm
what's
glad
what's
that like
yeah, I watch, I
when
pay
I
attention, I
no, but
pay
like when
attention.
I put that out, I'm like, man, no one gives a about
No,
this, you
no,
know,
it was
like, and
actually very powerful when I saw
really
that. Yeah,
amazing.
because it lets
That makes
people
me
know
really
that
happy.
everybody falls into
Goosebumps.
like bad
Thanks, man.
habits, right?
Yeah,
Looking for that instant dopamine hit, right? That instant gratification.
yeah,
And then we fall back on easy things like vaping and drinking and video
all of it.
games and like all the easy stuff,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I wanted to know how, like, what's your experience with that, and what do you try to do to not fall into that slippery slope where you go downhill?
Look, I think at some point, like age becomes a factor, and like your body can't take the stuff that you used to do to
Absolutely.
it before,
Yeah.
and so you kind of automatically, you know, you don't fall off the wagon as easily as you used to,
Because you
you know,
literally can't.
because you
if you
literally
do,
can't. Because if
if
you
you
do, you
do,
can't function
you
for
c-
days,
for
man.
months,
You
man.
know. So I can so it just like that part is I feel like is pretty automated, and in terms of keeping it healthy, like, you know, I had a phase with you where I had already done like a little bit of my own sort of fitness, you know, journey
Right.
thing, and I lost like I was 115 kilos. I lost a bunch
Sure.
of weight on my own, but then, you know, wanted to get to like
The next
the
level.
next level, the best
Sure.
that I could get, and man, you know, after doing it with you, honestly, bro, the stuff that you taught me, because I remember coming in on our first meeting, and you had done your transformation. You
Yes.
had it on Instagram. You
Yeah.
looked sick, like shredded, like maybe 10%, 11% body fat.
Right.
And
Right.
I was like, man, Roy did that. Like, I don't know if he's training people, but I want
Yeah.
to talk to him, and I
Yeah.
want him to train me.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember that night perfectly.
Me too.
Like I
And
said,
then we
that's the night
met.
that set up my whole life. I
Man,
was literally
that's
sitting on
crazy.
a sidewalk
So crazy.
thinking I want to do something that's not in the corporates. And then I thought about doing nutrition and PT. That's when you messaged me. You said Mabruk on your transformation. And then I'm like, I'm thinking of becoming a PT and nutritionist. And you're like, dude, if you do, I'm so down to be your first client. And I got this rush of energy just soar
Yeah,
right up
bro.
my whole body. And I'm like, okay, dude, let's meet up. And we did the very next day. It was in Starbucks, if you remember
remember.
that. I think on Beach Road or something.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And yeah, that's
Yeah, that's when you start. That's when I like, you know, when people say like God or destiny or spirit or
absolutely.
fate or
Yeah,
whatever,
100%.
like you have these moments where it's just too much of a coincidence
Right.
for you to you know,
Yeah.
to discard or to put
Oh
aside.
yeah,
Like,
that was like
you know,
fate.
divine timing or whatever,
100%,
it exists.
100%.
You know, you
Yeah,
see it, you feel it.
100%.
And sometimes you're in the worst place in your life, and you see like a little glimmer of hope in a message, in a DM, in a conversation, even in, you know, with with small talk in an elevator with a kind stranger, and you're like, you know, not bad,
Yeah.
everything's kind of good, you know.
Right.
And yeah, I remember that time, and at that time I was really kind of like, I need to change. I need to, like, the, you know, the vibe of change tomorrow. I do too
Sure.
little. I need to do more and more and more and
Yeah.
more. Nothing
Yeah.
is enough. No amount of work that I put in myself is enough. You know, I'm still not counting calories the right way. I'm still not, you know, and you taught me a lot of stuff, because I remember when we sat down, and we started. You kind of you were like, all right, it's as simple as calories in, calories out.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've heard this before,
Yeah. Well, it's complex, but it's simple at the
It's
same time.
so complex.
It is. It
It's
is. The I mean,
because
the
we're so blind to the things that we do in our
yes.
day,
Yes.
and it really takes a couple months of applying it and and seeing where you're, oh, I didn't count that, I didn't
Right.
count that,
Right.
but and you would
It's
do
just
a
about
really good
awareness.
job.
It's
It's
more
so
about
much, yeah,
awareness.
and then you realize that I'm not really that aware
Yeah.
of,
Most people aren't, including myself, before I got
man,
into
it's
it.
really hard,
Yeah.
right? Licks and bites. You always used to
It's
tell
just
me,
not
Jay,
it's
licks
not
and
some
bites,
yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, there you go.
right?
Licks
Licks
and
and
bites and
bites,
taste and
sauces,
yeah, absolutely. Dressings and
dressings, beverages,
everything.
yeah,
It all matters.
cocktails. My God, 350 calories for a mojito.
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
God,
yeah,
never
there you
again.
go.
Never
Scarred for
again,
life.
never again. But I remember also when that became too much of an obsession. Like I
Yeah.
was listening to the
So it
power
can
of
be.
now. It can
Yes.
be. It
Yeah.
can be.
Absolutely.
I was listening to the power of now
Eckhart
while
Tolle.
walking, Eckhart Tolle, yeah,
Yeah.
and like I'm like, why can't I get it? Like
Yeah.
I'm trying to be
Right.
now. I'm
Right.
trying to be present and
Sure.
care about nothing but the present
Right.
moment. And I'm meditating every day, and
Sure.
I'm doing the lifting and the cardio, and
Sure.
I'm counting my
Are you
calories.
still meditating
And
as
I'm
of today?
no,
Okay.
I haven't in a while.
Yeah.
And I actually had a few things happen to me where, like, in the last 2 3 months, I haven't worked out. Had like a couple discs in my L4 L5 and a bad neck, and so like life kind of just told me to like just chill out
Slow down.
and slow down. And now it's like all the wisdom that I wish that I got from the power of now back then, and the meditation back then, and the working out back then, like all of a sudden it's just like I'm just chilling,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm
But you'll never know how this will all come back to you eventually, right? So you can't see the dots looking, forward now.
No.
But once it happens, you may look back and say, "Oh, okay, this is
this
why."
is
this
why
and this is-"
exactly. So like
Yeah.
the work that I did back then, I couldn't see then.
There you go.
But
Exactly.
now, all of a sudden, I'm like,
that's how it
it paid
works.
off. You learn things,
Exactly.
And I think in life, you go through at least for me, I go through like a phase of obsessing about something.
Yeah.
And then maybe I obsess over it for like months. And then when I stop, I feel like, oh, what a waste of time.
Right. Right.
But then that skill or that whatever you learned, it stays with you
Yeah.
forever.
Oh, absolutely.
And so,
And you never know when you're going to use that skill.
never
right?
know,
Even
man.
10 years down the line,
Exactly.
you'll reach a scenario where that skill will actually be beneficial at some point, whereas at the time you never thought it would be important at all.
Exactly. Is there anything like something that you learned in the past that you never thought would be useful, and now all of a sudden you find yourself using?
I
Because I
can't.
have something like that I want to tell you about. But
Sure, I can't think of one on the spot, but there's so many things that I've, like I said, like at the time you're like, oh, okay, this is useless. Actually, even things like grammar in school. Like I remember learning grammar in school, where to put the comma and how to write. And then I'm like, man, I'm never going to be able to use any of this stuff. And then now when I write things, when I write letters, it all comes back to me, right? It's things
of
that I
course.
literally learned in high school. Like I said, spelling, grammar, writing, compositions. When I write letters now or when I write anything, it all comes back to me.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. And then there's many things like that I just can't think of right now.
no, I completely get you. The grammar one is a big one.
What's the one that you wanted to?
The one that I was thinking about was so there's this one gig that I've been doing for 2 years now. Okay, and it's an acting gig.
Yep.
And it can be like the most fun and yet one of the most uncomfortable experiences that you can have, because it's an immersive theater. It's a small speakeasy, looks like 1920s New York
one?
Gatsby era. It's called the Flashback Speakeasy in Paramount. And on Thursdays, we have this thing called Murder Mystery. And it's basically the crowd comes in, they're briefed about what the night is. They have to solve something, a sort of murder, a mystery, a theft, something. And we're a cast of like 5 people.
Cool.
We have 3 acts where we sing, where we each like, it's a bit it's musical, so we sing a song. But then in between acts, we're fully in character the whole night,
Cool.
and we're interacting with the audience.
Yeah.
And we have to sort of like guide them, hold their hands, answer questions, so that they get to whoever who committed the murder or
Right,
whatever,
right.
what the mystery, solve the mystery. And when I started that, it was the Addams Family, because it was like Halloween
Sure.
season 2 years ago, I think. and I was cast as Uncle Fester,
Yeah.
obviously, you know, and I was so excited, but at the same time, I'm like, my whole life. I've looked up to like John Mayer, who's like the sexy, tall guitar, blues playing,
Sure.
a charming singer songwriter. But then I also always as a kid had this thing of like JP, and JP is like a bit eccentric and crazy. And I don't know if you remember my old Facebook videos that I used to post on Facebook, but I used to do like really crazy, sort of like improvised comedic stuff where I didn't take myself so seriously. And so doing this Uncle Fester thing, and then many other roles in that residency, was really hard some nights, because
Right.
no matter how you're feeling, you're there to entertain, and you
Sure.
have to be that character for the night.
Yeah.
And you have to talk to tables, you have to talk to people who maybe don't want to be spoken to.
Right.
And
Right.
so, I learned so many things about like just approaching people the right
Yeah.
way, starting conversations, keeping conversations
Awesome.
going, being
Awesome.
wittier. And now all of a sudden I started this event called Unscripted last year, where I'm the host, and a lot of what happens on that stage is improv, and we write songs with people about people who are in the crowd
Oh,
that night.
wow.
It's really random. And if I didn't do all the Uncle Fester gigs and all that, I don't think I would have had
There you go.
the wit
There you go.
and the courage to just like be on stage, and whatever happens
Like
happens.
improvise and go up to
Yeah,
people and whatever.
exactly.
That's awesome.
So
That's awesome.
yeah, man, it's like that's one of those things where I was like, at the time, I'm like, this is really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But now I'm so happy that I did it, because I
Yeah.
think you can throw me in any situation with
There you
any
go.
crowd,
There you go.
and I'll be able to just like get a smile
Right.
off of
Right.
someone's face, even if they thought that they didn't want to smile tonight, they just came
Absolutely.
because they had to,
Absolutely.
or whatever. When you can make that person smile, the person who didn't want to be there that night, then I feel like that's a really, really great achievement
Right.
for
No,
any
100%.
entertainer.
100%.
You know?
I think that's the importance of, putting yourself out there and getting out of your comfort zone, because sometimes you're like, okay, I don't want to do this because it doesn't feel so comfortable. But then you end up learning a skill set, or you end up seeing that, oh, hey, me getting out of my comfort zone actually made me learn this and this and this and that, which you then later apply. And that's how you grow, right? As opposed to
Exactly.
just staying huddled up where you're comfortable.
100%. And then because when you see the results, you want more of this feeling, and so
Right.
anything that's uncomfortable,
Yes.
you actually
You
jump
jump
into,
towards it, 100%. 100%.
it's really cool.
Same thing
man.
happened to me with this podcast as well. Like, I remember when I was first starting it, I was like, can I do it? Can I not? Should I do it? But it's something that I knew that I intuitively wanted to do. It's something that came natural to me, and that's something that I wanted to put out and hopefully help people. So episode 1 was like a little bit more nervous, a little bit more weird. Episode 2 got more comfortable.
Of course.
3 and 4 and 5, and then it just gets more smooth and natural as you go along.
Of course, man. I
Yeah.
feel like my next thing is I want to be comfortable talking to the camera as if I'm talking to a friend.
Yes.
I think when
You mean on like social media?
no, yeah,
or-
but not like in a podcast format. I
Sure.
mean, like literally staring at the camera
Oh,
and
right,
like,
right, right. Yeah,
doing
yeah.
that whole thing
Sure.
in a way where it doesn't seem like I'm acting, or it
Sure,
doesn't
it's
seem
just like
forced.
natural.
Yeah, where like
Yeah.
I'm just talking to you. Because when I'm
Yeah,
talking to you
like
and I'm
Jim
looking
Carrey,
at you,
basically. Yeah.
I feel completely fine. I feel comfortable. I feel like myself. But
Sure.
as soon as I'm staring into a lens,
Yeah, naturally
something
it feels
weird
awkward.
happens.
Yeah, but that's natural, I
you
think.
know, and I think I just so sometimes I'll just practice. I'll just put the camera on and
Yeah.
practice. And when you're doing takes of anything in front of a camera, and you're just like,
Right.
you know, in between takes, that feeling
Yeah,
of
or
like,
when you get that thing in the throat. Yeah.
yeah, or when you get the tickle in the throat, like you did
Yeah.
at the beginning of the podcast
Yeah.
today. It's and then you watch that footage back and you
Yeah.
laugh at yourself. That's a form of practice.
Oh, yeah,
right? It's
100%,
just a
100%.
form of practice.
Confidence for the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and I guess we'll close out with we got sidetracked off of the bad habits thing. Is there anything now that you do that you wish you would cut out completely, and you think that it would help get you to that next level, for example? So like for me, I know when I start drinking often and then vaping. So for me, vaping would sometimes go with drinking, which I hate
Of course,
doing.
they go together.
They go together, which I
course they go
hate
together.
doing. I feel like I get sidetracked. I look at it as a pyramid of good habits and bad habits. Good habits would be over here. The minute I start doing the good habits, I start feeling like I'm climbing up towards my potential. But then the minute I start doing the bad habits, I feel like I start sliding all the way back down, and I need to start the good habits again to kick back up. So is there anything like that for you whatsoever?
So it's weird because like the habits that I've been trying to adapt to lately.
One of your lyrics was pills and cigarettes and
Yeah, gin and pills and cigarettes.
Yeah, there
Yeah.
you go.
So cigarettes, I'm off, but now I mean,
Sure.
so I recently stopped vaping. My
Yeah.
girlfriend vapes a
Good.
lot, and she
Yeah.
has like this crazy vape that just feels like, man, feels like crack. Honestly, it's
Right,
crazy. Like
right.
as soon as you have it in the morning, your entire body tingles. It's
Right,
like this.
the docha hit sort of thing.
Yeah, it's because it's 5% nicotine, and I
Sure.
think those aren't legal anymore here.
Sure, sure.
But like a bunch of these little shops sell them under the table.
Yeah.
So she just moved to Saudi, and when she moved to Saudi, I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna try to just like not do the vape anymore.
Right.
And so that one, I still
But
have an
you
IQOS.
feel what I'm saying, right? So when you're doing those things, do you feel like you're slipping away from your utmost potential?
So as soon as I have a
Basically? 'Cause that's how I
bag,
feel.
as soon as I have like some Haribo or some Cheetos in a day,
Yeah.
I feel like, okay, you've opened the bad door.
Right.
And
Now-
when
now
you've
it's a
opened the
slippery
bad
slope
door,
now.
like might as well. Like I'm already disappointed in myself.
Yeah.
Might as well
Go all out.
Yeah, go all. Yeah, but not so all out.
Sure,
But yeah,
sure.
I'll definitely there is that slippery slope.
Right.
But right now, the thing that I'm trying to do the most is like think I've become really good at being like, it's all right, bro.
Yeah.
You're fine,
Which
man.
is good.
It's fine.
Which is good.
I used to wake up and I'd have a gig on that night, and I think this is a very ADD thing. But like when you have an appointment or something at night, you for some reason you ruminate on it the whole
Right,
day, and it's
right.
like you're waiting for that instead of doing
Even if
all
you
the
don't
other
have
things.
ADD, that's what you do.
Right?
That's
You
what
just
I do.
think about the thing. You just
Yeah.
keep thinking about the thing. And now I've gotten a lot better. I was like, yeah, you have a gig. You've done a million times. It's
Yeah,
it's
there you
fine,
go,
you
there
know.
you go.
And if there's a nightmare scenario, honestly, bro, last night was a nightmare scenario at one of the gigs I was
Really?
at. Nightmare scenario. The worst thing that
What
can
happened?
happen. Just a venue that was like unprepared even though they've had me a million times, and as a musician, it's your responsibility to bring your equipment, to
Right.
plug in your equipment.
Sure.
It's not your responsibility to set up their equipment.
Right,
With this
right, right.
venue, they don't have a sound guy, so I'm always having to set up their equipment, and
Sure.
everything's always in a different place. And then there was this whole like 1 minute like screeching feedback that
Ouch.
like everyone in the crowd is staring at you. And you know what? This is a good story actually to like be towards the end of this podcast.
Sure.
JP 2 years ago would have been like,
Ran out the venue.
I'm done. I'm out. Like screw you guys.
Yeah.
I don't have to do this.
Right.
انتوا غلطتوا بحقي. Sorry,
Sure,
it's
sure.
Arabic, but it's like you guys messed up. You
Yeah.
know. Whereas last night, I'm like, this happened.
Right.
The crowd. I'm starting off with them on such a bad foot.
Sure.
Like, let's do the best set I can possibly do.
Right.
And I literally did an insane set, made everyone happy.
go.
Still left a little bit angry.
Right.
But I still did my job. And I did
Go.
my job as well as I could do it, despite everything that happened that was, shitty on that
Chapeau.
night. Thank you, bro.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it was just this voice of like, it's okay.
Yeah.
This happened.
Right.
Do your job and do your best, and
Right.
and I went home like a bit ticked off, but very proud of myself
I was about to say, man, I'm
that
proud,
I put
proud
everything
that
on
you
the
did that,
everything on
100%.
the. I really try to put my whole heart out there when I sing,
Right.
even if I don't necessarily.
And I
like
feel
the
the
gig.
crowd feels that because when I attended your
Sometimes.
gigs, I feel the energy, I feel the passion, I feel the love behind your, so
It actually depends on something so arbitrary and trivial. It's how loud they put you in the venue.
Okay.
If they choose how much the crowd cares about you. If they put you at a certain decibel level,
So they're choosing the sound
they're
levels, you mean?
saying if by how loud they put you, they're saying we want this to be the show,
Uh-huh.
or they're saying this is the background to your night.
Right.
And literally that's dictated by the most simple thing, which is the volume.
right. And
So
can you not influence that? Can you not?
you can, but it's usually up to the venue.
Sure.
Because they're the ones hiring you. They're the ones who are curating that night. They're the ones who decide what kind of entertainment they want for their
Right.
guests. And some venues just want background music.
Right.
They want because and a lot of people, most people who are going out to this specific venue want to talk to each other. They're not there specifically for live music. They're there because live music is just an added bonus.
Sure.
You know. But yeah, things like that. Like last night was great. I
No,
was very proud of
yeah,
myself.
no, I was about to say, and honestly, in general, JP, super proud of you, man. You know, the things that you've done and what you're doing today, like we were talking about this whole episode, basically, to be able to do it coming from where we came from, right? Shui Fat School, and then going to university over here. It's not something that's common. So I just wanted to, tell you that I'm proud of you, although you
Thank you,
know
bro.
that
I'm proud of you
already.
too, man.
Thank you, man. Thank
We were
you.
doing it together, Jan, and you were doing your PT stuff, like going so deep in getting all your
Yeah,
certifications
right.
with nutrition, with everything, and always a great conversationalist, always very passionate. You always like to share things that you learned and your wisdom with other people, and this is the
Appreciate it.
perfect place to do it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And to go back, because I know you wanted to talk about some of the lyrics, to that same song, Moonbound, it starts with one of my favorite lyrics that I ever wrote, which is, I say too much and do too little.
Right.
That's one of my favorite things I ever wrote, because I feel like it represents me so much. And I feel
I
like
think it represents a lot of
if
people.
everyone feels like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And now I'm like, man, Ru,
Yeah.
you don't do little. You
Yeah.
did a lot, or
Yeah,
you
absolutely,
wouldn't
man.
be
Like, don't be too hard
here.
on yourself,
Don't,
right?
man,
Yeah,
don't, really
absolutely,
don't. And
absolutely.
even that, I think, just comes with time.
100%.
And I think also being hard on yourself at some points is a bit necessary,
Yeah.
but like not always.
But give yourself credit when
Give
credit
yourself
is
credit
due.
when credit is
100%.
due. Yeah,
100%.
yeah, that's one thing I would definitely say.
Yeah, no, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, I think that's all about it, what we have for time for today. JP,
Pleasure,
thank you
bro.
so much, man. It's been
Thank
a
you so
fantastic
much.
conversation.
Yeah,
I
I
hope
agree.
the viewers will enjoy what they've heard today.
Me too, man.
Especially with that voice of yours.
Habibi, thanks, bro.
Yeah,
I'm
and
excited
that's,
to like get some clips for my social media too.
yeah,
Bro,
absolutely, absolutely. I'll
that's
share
one
some with
thing.
you.
I wanna, we have like we have like 5 minutes.
Sure. Yeah,
I want to
sure,
ask
yeah.
you, what is posting consistently on social media difficult for you?
So look, I'm the worst person to ask about social media. I'm
Me
so
too.
not on it.
But me
I
too.
don't worry about analytics and posting and anything like that. Honestly, I just go with the flow and
Yeah.
I post whenever, whatever. I don't look at the time.
You're not beating yourself up
I'm
about
not
it.
beating myself up because it's already an added stress. And I know a lot of people. I mean, it does work, right? If you're on the whole social media game and you look at the analytics and the timing and everything and how you post and when
I
you
mean,
post
it's
and the hashtags maybe, and now
Yeah.
I heard it doesn't matter as much anymore. It
The
just
hashtags, you
confuses
mean.
me too much. I'm like, you know what? I'm putting it out there just to put out content into the universe, and whoever responds to it responds to it.
and you're gonna do it regardless.
I'm gonna do it regardless, right? So I post at random times of the day. Sometimes it's like 7 in the morning. People tell me like, "Oh, dude, that's too early. You're not gonna get any likes." I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not posting it for the likes. I'm just putting the content out there."
Yeah.
I look at Instagram as my portal
You're-
to the universe.
Yeah.
Literally, that's
Yeah.
how I do it. So I put it out there, and if it wants to resonate with someone, it will resonate with someone. But I don't look at the analytics and the business tools too much, just because that's not for me. I'm not saying
Yeah.
that's wrong. And
No.
Yeah.
I get you. That's like really refreshing, because my Instagram feed is flooded with advice on how to post more Instagram videos and how to
Yeah.
make them faster and how to do the right
Right,
thing, how to
right.
make the right hooks.
Look, I'm sure it helps. I'm sure it
Musician
works.
marketing. Yeah, but like I'm also, like sick of it, and it
yeah,
makes you
exactly.
feel like, well, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You're not doing it right. You're
Honestly,
not doing
JP,
enough.
for me, ever since the beginning, it's been what, 5 years and a half now that I've been doing what I'm doing. I've always just gone with my heart and posted whatever I felt was natural and authentic to me, even though it didn't fit the guidelines of what, Instagram would advise or what people that would tell you.
Yeah.
But I'm like, you know what? F it. I'm just gonna do what I feel like is right, and I just did that basically.
Good on you, bro.
Even the way that I advertise for, like, say, sponsors, like if people send me something to post and they ask me to post, I tell them I'll only do it if A, I like the product, and B,
course.
I genuinely think that it's going to help my viewers or my audience, and C, if I can do it in my own way, not in a way that you guys are forcing me to write or whatever. So yeah, I think it's important to stay honest, and it's important to stay authentic to yourself.
You're right, man.
yourself.
Maybe I shouldn't put as much, because that's the one thing that I still to this day like. I'm like I've tried to get better at everything.
Right.
The one thing that I feel like I've never put all my heart and effort into is marketing myself on social media the right way.
Sure.
But
Look, we live and we learn, right?
we live
So,
and we learn. You're
yeah,
right. And I have made a couple of videos. I've made a few things. We've made a few things.
We'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Figure it out. Thanks for having me, bro.
Of course, man.
It's been
of
a
course,
pleasure.
anytime.
Honestly.
You know what? Give me a hug, man. I
you.
actually miss you.
I miss you too.
Habibi, good to see you.
Pleasure, man.
Of course. That was nice.